Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey there! Good morning. How you doing? It's a beautiful Monday. A bit chilly. But a beautiful blue sky I'm looking at. And I don't care what the temps are. If you give me a beautiful blue sky, I'm a happy person. Okay, enough with the weather. You know, it's how people start conversations. It's how you get in, even on a program like this. Sorry. Gee, that looks like me. What are you doing? Well, that can't be contagious. Okay. I mean, I've had this horrible condition on my left arm where I'm always, you probably see me doing this. I just looked over at Celine and she's like this. Well, it's your first wool sweater of the year, but see, I can't wear wool. So you wear it even though it makes you itch? How can you do it? It's warm, but it's itchy. Itchy is the worst. The older I get, the more the only thing that matters about any clothes I buy is, are they comfortable? That is all. And itching is not comfortable.
I just have to acclimate.
It could, All right. Well, it's going to get warm again this week. This is just a little... All right, that's even more about the weather. And now... Sorry. I'm avoiding getting to, the show because, frankly, my fodder is poultry today, which is odd because, Monday I've had Friday afternoon, all day Saturday, all day Sunday to read and garner stuff for the show. And nothing. There's nothing of him. Maybe you guys saw something, but I sure as hell didn't. I got a few little things here. Hey, so I'm having some work done on the house, and that means I have to move things, and, moving things is an opportunity to cull stuff. So in the culling of my books, which I thought I would never do, I went into a frenzy one night. I actually got rid of almost half. I didn't throw them out. I gave them to Goodwill. But really, what's the point? I thought any book, even if it's a classic, that's been sitting there for over 50 years, and I've never picked it up, let it go. If you feel like, rereading, whatever, Thackeray, then you'll, take them out of the library or something, or by then we'll just be reading in front of, some not even a screen, just some sort of holographic image in front of our faces or something. I'll just be able to do that or download it directly into my brain. So the ones I refuse to throw out are Charles Dickens, although I did have to throw out A Bleak House because it was literally coming apart. Charles Dickens, Jane Austen. Who else? Shakespeare. Who else won't I toss? I just can't. You can't toss certain ones. But anyway, you don't care. So, did you see, by the way, the books are not dying like they thought they would? Did you see, by the way, that the e-readers that everybody said, there go books. That's the end of that. And it ain't true. I love that. There's actually sort of, e-readership, Kindles and all that stuff were like bzzz. And now they're just sort of like leveling off. I never got one because I just do not want to read on a screen. I read enough on a screen. I'm looking at something right now where I'm reading on a screen. I love the fact that books, they're tactile. I could even, in some of these books, there were the notes in my cramped little age 20-year-old writing. It's odd how my writing has self-destructed in my tenure on Earth. It used to be absolutely legible, and I don't, what happens? It gets to the point where you can't even read your own, right? You look at something and think, what the hell is that? I'm just babbling. Let me babble. Something will happen. It always does. I came upon this today, and I love this. Roger Cohen writing from London, however, speaking of a sign he saw in a Venice restaurant just a few weeks prior to his writing what I'm about to share with you. And he's in a nice little Venice restaurant, and he sees emblazoned across the top of the menu the following: we do not, capital N-O-T, serve gluten-free food. And he said, yes! He said, yes! He said it was easy to imagine an exasperated Italian proprietor driven to frenzy by repeated requests from American tourists for gluten-free spaghetti. And he finally decided just to say to the Americans, forget it, okay? I'm doing pasta like we've done pasta for thousands of years, okay? None of this gluten-free stuff. And Cohen points out that gluten, in case you didn't know, now gluten is like, it's up there with, Ted Bundy as like something horrific. Gluten? You have gluten? Yeah, gluten. It's the main protein component of wheat, which we eat a lot of, right? Of wheat, of barley, of rye. And, humans have been eating wheat for over 12,000 years. So to say that our bodies are not acclimated to wheat is absurd. Wheat kept us alive. But all of a sudden, gluten has become this. Really, you would think it was. I don't know. Here's what I suspect, and there are people who truly who have celiac disease, and that's nothing to make fun of. I have a friend who does have it, and she was in terrible pain. She really suffered for a long time before it was properly diagnosed. She is somebody who truly was helped by stopping the ingestion of gluten, which for some reason her intestine can't deal with. But I got news for you. A lot of the other people who are all saying, and I can't have any gluten, do not have celiac disease. They have, an affluenza problem. They have, no, I can't do, no. It's because, now it's a big to-do. They have gluten-free on products that never had gluten in them in the first place. It's like, gluten-free meat. Duh. What are they saying? That the animal didn't eat wheat? I don't know what they're saying, but this is nuts. There is definitely an uptick in people who can't handle, truly can't. And that probably has to do with some of the fact that we have so much processed food. I have little doubt about that. But allergies, too, are, straight up in the air. And in England, 1 in 5 people what do they call people in English people? Now say they have some form of allergy or intolerance to a food. 1 in 5. And what any sober-minded medical type would say to that number, that's just bullshit. It's a kind of narcissism to have a special dietary need or requirement, to the point so many people now have these special dietary needs that if you host a party, you're supposed to ask people, is there anything that you can't eat? And what is known is that, oh my God, if you ask that question to, let's say your party is made up of people 70 and older, is there anything you can't eat? They'll all look at you like, what? No, I'll eat anything. If you ask it of people under 30, they can't eat this, they can't eat that, they won't eat this, they won't eat that. And I'm here to tell you, and I think I have said it before, if I give a party and I make food, I don't ask anybody anything. I just make some food, I put it on the table. If they want to eat it, they can eat it. If they can't, tough. There'll always be something there on the table that they can eat. I just think this is absurd what's going on. It's not think of all the humans who live in third world countries. Do you think they have oh, I'm sorry, I cannot have that piece of bread. It's, I have a gluten issue. No, they're grabbing the piece of bread, okay? So that's why I say some of this has to do with us, pampered, narcissistic, living in, plenty, to be able to pick and choose the plenty that we will possibly put into our bodies. And here's what, Cohen says, people, if they do have a choice, and it's worth recalling that much of humanity does not, but people, if they have a choice, are eating better these days, and that's good. But there is also a downside that has to do with self-indulgence, commercial manipulation, and that's a biggie, commercial manipulation, the rampant anxiety associated with affluenza and narcissistic fussiness. So, So he goes on to say, so people over 80 will eat anything, yet people under 25 are riddled with allergies. Something unhealthy is going on, and it's going on most conspicuously in the most aggressive, competitive, unequal, individualistic, anxiety-ridden, and narcissistic societies, where enlightenment about food has been offset by the sort of compulsive anxiety about it that can then give rise to imagined intolerances and allergies. And I think he's absolutely onto something there. We now know so much about the food, and we read stuff, and we hear that this is good for you and that isn't. And of course, that can change in 48 hours what is and isn't. And for a lot of Americans, all that does is create anxiety. Conscientious, narcissistic Americans. Anxiety. And can give rise to imagined intolerances and allergies. He finishes up by saying, overall, I'm with a Venetian restaurant owner, making his stand for tradition and eating the food that's put on your plate. Gluten has done okay by humanity for upward of 10 millennia. It's bad for some people, yes, but the epidemic of food intolerance has gone way, way over the top. Yep. And that's the truth. Ansel writes, Ray books and Kindles. Lynn, my wife, a teacher, has a pet name for her bookshelf. She calls it her trophy case. She always says that a book that's been read and enjoyed should take its proper place in the trophy case and proudly displayed. And she's quick to point out you can't do that with a Kindle. I understand your wife because I've looked at my bookshelf throughout my life exactly as that. It's as if, and you know what? People come into your house. I've had people, I remember Chris Potter in particular, when he came to my house, he went right to my bookshelf and started, and you know what? It felt, I got nervous. I thought, he might as well, go up to my closet, open it up, and start looking with some scrutiny at what I had chosen there. And I knew that people who like to read sometimes can judge people based on what's on their bookshelf. So I know it's a fact that a lot of people have on their bookshelves books they've never read, but they think they should have read, so they put them up there in case somebody like Chris Potter comes by and starts looking at, what books do you have here? And I've gotten over that finally, just in the last few weeks. I really have. And I also now, more often than not, get books out of the library. And when you get a book out of the library, you can't put it in your trophy case. So no one can know, oh, yes, oh, you read that. Well, good for you. So, but I do admit to having some books that are like books you should have read in my bookshelf forever that I never read. I did that. And all those books I've thrown out. I mean, gave away. 100 Years of Solitude. I know, one of the great books, and I haven't read it. I don't know. Never read it. Celine's looking at me like, oh, what? It's one of your favorites, but I just didn't. I must have started it once, but just couldn't. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, but it's sort of like some people are afraid to buy art for the same reason. Because if you hang art on your wall and people come into your home and they will judge you based on what you have hung on the wall. I think a lot of people are scared to death to buy art for that reason and that reason only. Well, maybe it's not really good, and maybe I'd be judged, and I like it, but I don't know. We're all so anxious and self-conscious, I think. Ray writes, Lynn, I saw in the parish bulletin that anyone with celiac disease, that they now have, for anyone that has celiac disease, they now have, oh, Jesus. Did you hear me, Ray? I said, oh, Jesus, and I'm sorry. they now have gluten-free hosts for the Eucharist. So when you go up to take communion, they have a gluten-free line and how do they know what to put on, what to give you? Gluten-free? Would you like some gluten-free, Jesus? Or would you like some, seriously, what? Jesus. Excuse me. That's right. But, come on. I cannot begin to tell you, says Ray, the incredible amusement that this has provided me. Oh, I can imagine. How the veils of transcendent mystery can be pulled away by popular culture. This church of mine is at a crossroads, and I can't wait to see what path it takes. Well, you might not like it. I don't know. I read something about the crossroads of the Catholic Church, and it said essentially that while Pope Francis is, attempting to pull the church in a certain direction, the church, it doesn't move very easily or quickly, and that the church can easily outweight this pope. And I think that's what a lot of the conservatives and traditionalists are intending to do. And believe me, they'll remedy it with the next pope. Watch. Just you watch. That's my guess. But that is funny. Gluten-free hosts. Well, how do you decide? Really, seriously, you have two lines. What can you... What... Wait a minute. Okay. Hello, caller.
Hey, I have the most unread book. I can name it.
What is it?
It's Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Everybody has it. Nobody's read it.
Okay, I have not read it. I don't even have it.
Oh, you don't have it? I have it. I'll loan it to you to not read.
No, thank you. I don't even want it. I've never read anything by him, and he's supposed to be the greatest.
Read his essays. They're not as dense, and they're easier to get through.
Okay.
Yeah. But I just want to tell you something else that's weird. My husband and I just ordered this book. I can't think of the name of it, but it's about a guy. He's kind of like a sex addict and his problems. And when the book arrived, it looks like a Bible. It's got the gold leaf pages and the cheesy white leather cover, and it was like, oh, my God.
How odd.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, because I don't think publishers want to spend money anymore. So I was like, oh, my God.
Wow. Hey, and last week I had an author here who's a professor at Pitt.
Yeah.
And she wrote the book called Scream, and I noted that her publisher spent some money so that the word scream is in some kind of an, I don't know what they would do, but if it in a dark room, it glows. Scream just
Good.
glows, nothing else. Scream. And I said, that is so cool. And her book got a big review in the Wall Street Journal this weekend, which is very. That's woo-wee. Their review section on Saturdays is really amazing, and they pick interesting books, and she got one of those spots, coveted spots. So I tip my hat to her.
Yeah,
that's
good
great.
for her.
Good, Margie. Way to go.
Yay.
Okay. So, no, David Foster Wallace, no, sorry. Is it big enough to, use as a bookend and stuff like that?
Totally. Or you could, work out your biceps with it. Yeah.
Okay, well, then put it to,
It's a tome.
It's a tome.
Mm-hmm.
Put it to some other use.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All righty, bye.
You can keep it, though.
Bye-bye.
So, in the process of culling my books, I come upon a book that's like, what? Something about legal this and that's and a blah, blah, blah. I thought, what the heck? And then I saw on the spine, it was from the Squirrel Hill Library. Oh, dear. It was from the Squirrel Hill Library. It had to be 20 years overdue. I did the right thing. I went over to the Squirrel Hill Library with my book. Their book. And I said, here, I have not a clue why I would have this book, but there it is, and it's obviously yours. And she tried to look it up, and it didn't exist anymore in their records. It was probably that long ago. She said, well, you're lucky that it doesn't exist. Because she said, I'm going to let it go. Usually, I was thinking, if it's 200 years, I mean, it's like 10 years overdue. I mean, I'd buy them the book. That would be less than a fine. But anyway, I got off. I got off on good behavior. And she said, donate to the library instead. I said, I do. And I left feeling very self-righteous and like a good moral human being. Did you give away the book I gave you? Oh, God. Larry. The book was God Knows by Joseph Heller. God knows. I don't recall giving it up. I said to my son, I can't give up books that people have given me, especially if they're signed. I mean, if somebody's... No, I didn't. Larry. Jeez. Okay, here's a weird email that's just come in from Laura. I saw a picture of you from one of your shows next to another picture of a drill from a fracking site the picture was titled The Faces of Shale. The presentation was about the benefits of drilling and featured people who work for the industry. I will send you the presentation in another email. Did you know they included you as a supporter? What? Oh, geez, I'll get to be like one of those rock bands who tells somebody running for president, stop using my song! Why would they put my pic? I mean, just to do this to me? Maybe? How odd. No, Laura, send me that. That is too weird. So I came upon a little note. There was an interview with Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, openly lesbian senator from Wisconsin. And do you want to know her 5 favorite craft beers? Spotted Cow, well, because she's from Wisconsin. What do you want? Spotted Cow, Growing Power, never heard of it. Hop-worthy IPA. 4th is Me, Myself, an IPA. And number 5 is Bedlam. There's so many beers out there, how do you possibly, anyway. So there's Tammy Baldwin, and she says something in this interview that blew me away. Because it's why I and so many others from the late, great state of Wisconsin detest Scott Walker and what he has done to that once proud state. She says this, and I did not know this. Wisconsin was the first state to enact a gay civil rights law. And Wisconsin did that in 1982. 1982, ladies and gentlemen. That's like the dark ages in gay civil rights. Unbelievable. Yet Wisconsin enacted a gay... The state you're sitting in right now, most of you, this one, Pennsylvania, they've yet to enact such a law. 40 plus years later. Wisconsin was the first state to enact a gay civil rights law in 1982, which offered gays protection against discrimination in employment, public accommodation, education, all that kind of stuff, which gays do not have here. And she points out it was signed into law by a Republican governor. 1982. The good old days. When a Republican would sign a law that was that progressive at the time, never been done before. And now we got another Republican governor. And look at what we have. Horror. I was so proud to be from that progressive state. And now when people think about Wisconsin politics, they think about union busting and Scott Walker and the Koch brothers. And it makes me nuts. It really does. I mean, I feel like mourning that loss. So, okay, this is another off-the-wall subject I'm about to bring up. But when I first became a parent, there comes a time at some point where you find yourself singing to your child, to your baby. Now, if you have a voice like mine, that's something that you might want to take under consideration. Because mine is not a restful sounding, but I can try. And what do babies know? But I tried, as he was a little infant, sometimes to sing to him. It's just sort of a natural thing that happens to you. And actually, academics do research into lullabies, and anthropologists do research into lullabies. And you know what's amazing? There's only one reason for a lullaby, and that is to lull a child to sleep. So in a way, it has to be sort of boring, repetitive, simple. But what's amazing is how often lullabies are in a minor key, and they're sad. Spain, in particular, the Spanish, the saddest melodies in Spanish music are invariably from music that was used as lullabies. Now think about that. Why would that be? So I have to tell you this story. So I was singing to my kid, and I don't know from nothing about lullabies. I know one. I knew one in my head, so I started it. Rock-a-bye, baby, in the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks. And that's as far as I got. I thought, what? I'm singing to my kid about being in a cradle up in a tree, and the wind blows it down, and he falls? I couldn't sing it. And that was followed shortly by maybe a few years later, trying to read him some fairy tales. And I'd say, what the hell am I reading him this for? It's friggin' frightening. It's about being lost in dark places, being eaten, being cooked, being enslaved. Yow! Ogres, monsters. I understand. I can see why people study this. That maybe it was a need to toughen kids up because these are older stories at a time when children had much tougher lives and often didn't live long. And maybe a lullaby that's about putting your child in a tree and having it fall down is also a way for the mother to remember that her baby might not, in fact, live. I don't know. What is that? What is that about? Most of the American lullabies that have come down to us through the years are also sad. And then what they call lullabies, I think, that's a lullaby? My darling Clementine? I wouldn't sing that, but that's also, you are gone and lost forever. Or you are my sunshine. Why is that negative? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are blue. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Oh, I didn't say, please don't take my sunshine away.
It's the second verse.
It's probably the second verse that kills you. The sadness in those traditional songs, once you notice them, is nearly unbearable, which may be why so many people just sing the choruses, which is why we don't want to know what the song's about, or why I had to stop mid-phrase when I was trying to sing to Sam. When I got to bow breaks, I thought, no, not my kid. Did you find it?
Mm-hmm.
So is it sad? Not particularly.
It's kind of in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Being afraid of being left.
It's about being afraid of being left. Well, yeah. I don't know. But there was a piece in the New York Times Magazine about this, and I must admit, I didn't feel interested enough to read it all the way through, but it's weird if you think about it, that the books we read children and then yet we do in this protective age where you're afraid to let your child, see that movie or hear that, watch that show or play that game or this and that. And yet we, from day one, bring them up on this sort of unsettling traditional fairy tales and lullabies. I'm just saying. Is there some news going on I'm supposed to talk about? I swear to God, I don't know of any. Joe Biden says within 48 hours, he'll let us know. And my guess is, the answer is he ain't running. My hope is he doesn't run. I adore him, but not. Wasn't I the one who first said that Bernie Sanders looked exactly like Larry David, sounded like Larry David, all that kind of stuff? So big shocker, they had Larry David play him on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, they're like twins, separated at birth. Two New York Jews. That's two grumpy New York Jews. So there's this article I've been carrying around for easily 3 weeks. And I always put it out here, and I never get to it. And I've been waiting for a moment like this, when, frankly, as I said, my fodder for the show is paltry, and consequently, this now might save my ass. So here it is. It's talking about benefits in the workplace. Believe it or not, there still are some benefits in the workplace. We live increasingly in an economy in which if you're lucky enough to get a job that even pays you money, you don't even expect any benefits. This is the new economy is all about God help you. It's everyone for themselves. But Working Mother magazine has an annual list of the top 100 companies to work if you are somebody who wants to attempt to balance work and personal life. And they rank these companies based on their support for families with young children or elderly relations to care for, on companies that allow flexible work options, and other wonderful things, too numerous to mention, but which most workers in America don't have a shot at having available to them. And IBM, for instance, I think of it as a stodgy old company. Johnson & Johnson, I think of them as the same kind of thing. They have been on the list for 30 years. They're every single year. And because, here's why. All employees have flex time. New parents get paid leave. And the company pays for fertility treatments, for God's sakes. So they help an employee get pregnant, and then they pay for them to get pregnant, and then they pay for them to not come to work, to take care of the resulting child if all goes right. They also provide backup child care and shipments of breast milk home from business trips. I mean, they just lean over backwards. And a lot of companies like this do it to be competitive. I mean, if there's a smart cookie out there and they're saying, well, I got this nice offer from this employer, and they're pretty much the same, but this one offers a lot more family-friendly, then you're going to the family-friendly policy place. But here's what the article says. This list also shows how far removed these companies are from most of the people who employ most of us. We're not going to see that. I never, ever, ever. All the companies on this list offer paid maternity leave. If you look at all the companies in the country, you know how many offer paid maternity leave? I'm actually surprised it's as high as it is, 21%. But that means that 4 out of 5 do not. The odds of getting paid maternity leave are not great. 90% of all these 100 companies on this working mother list, 90% give paid paternal leave. Wow. They even let dads off. In the real world, look at all the companies in the country, that number is struggling to get to 17%. I'm shocked, again, it's that high, but I suppose part of that is you got these 100 companies that you throw into the pot. 99% of the companies on this list offer referral services for elder care. All the companies in America, you ask them that question, only 6% would even consider. What does that have to do with us? Why should we help people find a place to put their ailing mom or dad? And of the top companies, these 100 good companies, 48% of them, so less than half of them, offer prepared take-home meals. Jeez, can you imagine working for such a place? 38% of them offer nap rooms. And 23% offer haircuts. Now, I think a lot of this, though, is they'll give you all this, but you damn well better work your ass off while you're with them. I mean, yeah, go take a nap. We know it might revitalize you. And we're giving you this hot, nice meal to take home because we're keeping you a few hours later, but this way you won't have to cook when you get home. I do think there's a trade-off. But when you look at things like that, take-home meals, nap rooms, haircuts, and you ask all the employers in America, do you offer your employees that? They look at you like you're out of your cotton-picking mind. The number is 1%. But here's the other divide. There's a sharp income divide, so that people who are in the bottom quarter of wage earners in this country invariably work for companies that don't offer any benefits to help them. Next to none. The conditions for the women at the top are further and further apart from conditions for women at the bottom of the economic scale. And of course, it's women at the bottom of the economic scale that need these kinds, that need the paid leave, that need the help. But they're not the ones who are going to get it. And the conclusion that they all come to is, look, this is not a fight that you fight one company at a time. It just ain't ever going to get done that way. The only way we are going to be able to equitably and wisely offer workers the kind of support and benefits that actually allow them to be better workers, higher morale, more loyal workers, better parents, happier marriages and people, that if companies do that, it inevitably accrues to their benefit. This is the stupidity of so many employers. They don't understand that treating people with care and respect, the people that you're asking to do your labor, to work for you, will accrue to your benefit in the long run. But so many cannot see beyond their nose. They just can't see it. They don't think in long-term. They don't see that if I invest in these people, I will get a great return. Because that takes a sense of looking forward. It also takes a great measure of humanity. So anyway, Working Woman says, we just are not going to be able to do this one woman at a time, one company at a time. What has to happen is actual legislation, policy, and political action. And you don't see any political action on these working issues, do you? I mean, we're too worried just trying to get people jobs that pay more than a slave wage. Roger writes, my wife and I were walking on the North Shore Friday, and I took this picture at the World War II Memorial. Okay, should I read this? I guess I should. It says, Renaissance Pittsburgh. Our grand design in Pittsburgh has been the acceptance of a belief that a city is worth saving, and that the people of a city can take pride and glory in it. Someone with a long view. And who would that be? Says right here. 1946, Mayor David Lawrence. teamed with leaders of the recently formed Allegheny Conference, several of whom were returning veterans, to develop and fund programs to transform the quality of life of an entire region. The success of their efforts established a national standard for urban renewal. If you look at a picture of Pittsburgh when David Lawrence said this about his grand design, and look at a picture of it today, you see the forward thinking, the idea that you invest in people and places and you get a return. The idea that quality, he actually uses the word quality at some point, the quality of life is important. And the plaque goes on to say, the task was formidable, or formidable, whichever you say. Pittsburgh was no longer hell with the lid off, but it was still the smoky city. Fouled air, polluted rivers were byproducts of its industrial might. The banks of those rivers, which flooded frequently, were overcrowded with the tools of production through legislation and investment. The team implemented its Renaissance agenda. Air was cleared, water quality improved, green space expanded, and flood control measures adopted. And finally, a spacious park and nearby office complex provided a new gateway to a changed but still indispensable city. There's a reason why Roger wanted to share this, and I'll get to it. I got one more little blurb here from the World War II Memorial, because they're talking about what these vets did when they came back after the war. The renewal projects provided employment for the area's military vets and former defense workers alike. Thousands more took advantage of generous education provisions in a GI Bill of Rights to enter and complete college. Decisions virtually ensuring that successive generations would follow their educational path. The collective intellectual capital they acquired helped sustain the region for decades, even during its change to a service-based economy, which we have witnessed more recently. Roger said, my wife and I saw this, and we believe this could never happen today, would never happen in today's political climate due to the heavily financed minority of our representatives who do not believe in infrastructure, who do not believe in cleaning up or protecting the environment, who don't want to give people good jobs, who would not have voted for the GI Bill of Rights. It's so true. You see how when we had a government that was aware of what its mission was, and this is a government at the local level, David Lawrence, and at the national level, with a Congress establishing these kinds of programs that lifted people, that created a middle class that now we're destroying. And pretty well darn done with it. By the way, this World War II memorial, which I have walked past, but at the time I was in a hurry and was not able to stop and give it my attention. But the gentleman I was with has stopped and given it his attention in walks past. And he said this to me. He said, you know what? All you have to do is bring busloads of children in here and literally go from one of these plaques to another, read them. He says it's like a history. He says it's history lesson. He said it's all there. The history of that period is all there and you can see by just reading that, how you could spend an entire week with students talking about the implications of David Lawrence's vision of what the city could become and how he helped make it so. Okay. So this is a video I'm in? On this Faces of Shale. I have to watch the video presentation first. Your picture follows under the heading Faces of Shale. Oh, dear God. Well, I don't have, I'll look at it after the show. How the hell? I will be seeing my attorney. First, I'll have to get an attorney. Do you have an attorney? People, and I'll be. I've had attorneys when I was adopting my child. I needed an attorney, but that's not my attorney. Or when I made my will, I needed an attorney, but he's not my attorney that I would go. And that's the thing. Attorneys are like doctors. They're also specialized, that there's no such thing as having an attorney. You go to an attorney for this, you go to another attorney for that, you go to an attorney. I hate it. There's no holistic anybody's anymore, it seems. I went to a hand doctor the other day. Can you imagine? A guy. There's hand doctors. There's guys who specialize, I suppose, in thumbs. There's subsets, and none of these people look at you as a human being or as a sum of your parts, which we are. I was dealing with a dermatologist for a long time trying to get a problem dealt with. And now it appears it might in fact be a neurological problem. So now I'm going to a neurologist or will be going to a neurologist because that appears to be where the problem is. But did the dermatologist ever think for a minute that this could be neurological? No. They just deal with their own. I hate it. The health system in this country is insane. So when I went to the hand guy, I waited a long time. Then I got put in a room. And then this nice man comes in. He's the nurse. He sits down. He says, I got to ask you a bunch of questions. He sits down, and in sitting down, his back is to me. And he's in front of a computer. And he actually said, God bless him, I'm sorry my back is to you. He said, I don't know why they set this room up like this. I should be looking at you. I said, yes, you should be looking at me. So I was a disembodied while he's taking us down. And have you ever this? And what is your this? And what are your... And I'm talking to a back, an embarrassed back. But people do. There's no thought given to that kind of thing. And then by the time the doctor came in, I swear that doctor never looked me in the eye. He sort of walked in and said, he shook my hand, sat down, and I was nothing but a finger to him. Nothing but a finger. And I am so sick of it. I will not go back to that doctor again. I will keep on looking for somebody who will look at me and talk to me. One of the books I would never throw away is a book that was given to me by a man who was a doctor and a professor at Harvard Medical School. His name was Bernard Lown, L-O-W-N. I had the great honor of having him in my radio studio and interviewing him for an hour on this book, this skinny little book, which was titled The Lost Art of Healing. And in this book, he talks about the fact that all this shit we do now, all the diagnostics, the tests and this, do not in any way, are not better than a doctor sitting with you, looking at you as he's talking to you, touching you, whatever. It's that in which healing happens. And do you know what he said to me after the interview? He said, "You have a thyroid problem, don't you?" And I said, "Well, what's it to you? Why would you know I have a thyroid problem?" He said, "Well, you do, don't you?" I said, "Yes." I said, "How did you know that?" He said, "Your eyes." And then he began to tell me how people who have hypothyroidism, this and that, something, he said, I can tell. He was brilliant. He also was a founder of a group, Doctors Against Nuclear War or something, that won a Nobel Peace Prize. So, and he in fact had gone to Oslo to help collect it. So here he's this ingenious character. But he was saying that this was before it computerized and the backs were turned to you. He felt that medicine, because of technology, was becoming less and less of a healing art. And I, as often a patient in the medical system, which is about as scary a place as you ever want to be, he is so right. Bring back the old GPs with their black bags making house calls, and I'll tell you, we will all be healthier. I know it. All right, that's it for me. I know that was weird, but that was it. And have a great day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.